Welcome students. In this video, we will be reviewing the lesson 9-1 area of triangles, rectangles, and squares. We're going to begin by completing the do now problem. The lengths of the legs of the right triangle ABC shown below are given in inches. The midpoint of the segment AB is how many inches from point A? Here, the first step that we have to do is to calculate the length of the segment AB. You might recall from a previous lesson that anytime you have a right triangle and you're looking for the length of one of the sides, you must use Pythagorean theorem. Here, for this particular problem, we're looking for the length of AB, and AB, segment AB, represents the hypotenuse of this right triangle. So in order for us to calculate the length of the hypotenuse, we need to take the square root of the sum of the legs squared. Here, in this problem, let A be 32 and let B be 24. When we substitute, we get 32 squared plus 24 squared. 32 squared gives us 1024. 24 squared gives us 576. When we add those two, we get 1600. And the square root of 1600 is 40. Notice that 40 is one of the multiple choice answers. But we need to always go back and reread the question. The question is asking us the midpoint of the segment AB is how far from that vertex A. Recall that the midpoint, just like the word says, will be right at the middle of this segment. So if the whole segment AB measures 40 inches, then that midpoint will be 20 inches away from point A. So our correct answer is B. Okay, moving on. The objective for today is student will be able to find the area of triangles, rectangles, and squares. You might remember from your 6th and 7th grade math classes the definition of the area. The area is the amount of space inside a boundary of a flat two-dimensional shape. This could be any type of polygon or a circle. We're going to start by recalling the formula of the rectangle. The formula that we use to calculate the area of the rectangle is area equals base times height. From Algebra 1, you used to use length times width, but it's the exactly same thing. Also, we know that the square is technically a rectangle. So here, the only difference is that this is a special rectangle because all the sides here are going to be congruent. So the formula to calculate the area of the squared is side times side. And side times side will give us side squared. You can always use base times side in order for you to calculate the area of that rectangle, and it would still work. Now the formula to calculate the area of the triangle is area equals base times height divided by 2. Where is that divided by 2 coming from? If you recall, in a rectangle, you can always split that rectangle so that you can have two congruent triangles, right? So here, that divided by 2 is coming from the formula of the rectangle, because the formula of the rectangle is area equals base times height, but since we just want a triangle, we just want half of that rectangle. So that's where the divided by 2 comes from. Okay, moving on. Here are some practice problems that I will be doing with you. It says find the area of the figures below. We know that this first shape is a squared, right? So first step is identify the shape, which is a squared. Second step will be recall the formula. The formula is area equals side squared. Second step will be substitute 16 centimeters squared. And our answer will be 256 centimeters squared. Make sure you box out your answers so that I know, and it's easier for me to identify it once I check your work. Okay, second problem. Find the area of the triangle with a base of 38 meters and a height of 17 meters. So here we're not giving the diagram, so it's super important in your geometry course to always draw your diagram, right? In this case, this shape. It says here that this is a triangle. I just drew the triangle, and they're telling me that the base of the triangle is 38 meters and the height is 17 meters. So once again, we know that the shape is a triangle. I already recall the shape. Now let's recall second step, the formula. Formula equals base times height divided by 2. Third step is substituting. We have 38 meters times 17 meters. All that divided by 2. And we get 646 meters squared divided by 2. And our final answer is 323 meters squared. Same thing, expect you to box out the answer. All right, we're now in the third problem. It says find the perimeter and the area of the rectangle. Okay, so we haven't talked about perimeter yet, but this is a concept that you should be very familiarized with by now. So in order for us to find the perimeter, we need to add all the sides. So if I want to find the perimeter of this rectangle, I know that I have 10 right here, plus another 10 right here, plus 6, plus 6. And our answer will be 32. And don't forget the units. Okay, 32 centimeters. Now we want to find the area. We know this is already a rectangle. Okay, second step, write down the formula of the rectangle base times height. So 10 centimeters times 6 centimeters. Our answer is 60 centimeters squared. Okay. That's our final answer for that third problem. And then lastly, we'll need to find the area of this triangle. We know that the formula to calculate the area of this triangle, again, this is the shape triangle. The formula is base times height divided by 2. Second step is to substitute. We know that the base is 36 millimeters, 36. But we don't know the height. 60 millimeters is not the height. There is something important that I forgot to mention in the lesson, and that is to always recall that the base and the height are always going to be perpendicular. Side times side, they have to be perpendicular. Base times height have to be perpendicular. So if you look at the bottom on problem 4, 60 is not the height because 60 is not perpendicular with our base. Here, this is my height and this is my base, and I notice that they're going to be perpendicular. So for this particular problem, I don't know the length of the height. So we need to calculate that by using Pythagorean theorem, just like we did in our do not problem. So here, we know that this is a leg. So when we are looking for a leg, instead of adding we're going to be subtracting the hypotenuse squared minus the leg squared. Okay? So once you do that, let me go ahead and calculate that for you real quick. Once you do that, your answer is going to be 48 millimeters. Okay, once we do that, then we can come back to our formula to continue calculating the area of this triangle. So 48 millimeters divided by 2. So 36 times 48 divided by 2 gives us 864 millimeters squared. Super important, guys. When the height is not given to you, don't forget to use Pythagorean theorem to find that missing dimension. Thank you.